Alright, so I guess the first place to start as far as this game is concerned is that I was coming off two very bad games where I played openings which were less than superb. I think I just made a couple inaccuracies. So in this game against Maxime, I really made it a point to try and prepare something special against the Grünfeld, and I think it sort of showed in the game. Alright, so we start out with d4, knight f6, c4, knight c3, d5. Pretty much all this I was expecting at the start, nothing too surprising. So takes, e4, knight takes c3, b takes c3, bishop g7. This really is the starting position of the game. Last night, between myself and my second, I spent a lot of time looking at quite a few variations, and I didn't really find anything that I thought was simply winning or really fabulous, but I figured I should play something which Maxime might be a little bit unfamiliar with. So I followed his game earlier against Alexei Shirov with this main variation with bishop c4, knight e2, knight c6, and bishop e3. So we were just following the game. Castles, knight a5. This also is from the World Championship between Topalov and Anand, so just following quite a few games up to this point. So bishop d3, b6, queen d2, e5. And so here in the game between Alexei and Maxime, Alexei played the move bishop h6, and it leads to very forcing lines. I think I had found equality within that for white, but I didn't find anything more. So I spent probably 2 to 3 hours wasting time looking at that, and when I couldn't find anything, I noticed there was this alternative bishop g5, which has only been played probably 5 to 10 times. And I figured it was a good try to surprise Maxime and take him out of his preparation. So here Maxime actually followed the theory with queen d7. I think there was a game, who played the game? There was some game with Gelfand, I remember that. But, right, so queen d7, and now I played bishop h6, and the idea is here, with the queen on d8, black has more squares along this along the d8, h4 diagonal, whereas here, in some variations, if you play it the same way, say takes, king g7, cd4, f4, at some point you might be able to play f5, f6. And if the queen is on d8, it's always possibly attacking the pawn later on, whereas with the queen on d7, it frees up my rook. For instance, so the queen is on d8 in this position. In some positions, after maybe queen h6 to start, or even ideas with rook f4, rook h4 are possible, with the queen being on d7 as opposed to d8. So that's really the main difference in the position.
You were surprised with the bishop g5?
A little bit, yes. I assumed he had looked at it before the game as well, but I was just trying to find some sort of position and just play chess, really. And after spending so many hours not finding much of anything in the Grünfeld, just figured it made some sense, at least, to get a position like that. So after bishop h6, Maxime played the move bishop to b7. I traded on g7. And now I played the move d5. In this position, I can't take on e5, because if I take on e5, there's this move c4 here. And I can't move the bishop because my queen hangs, and I'll just end up down a piece and probably losing. So in the game I played d5, Maxime played f5, and I played f3. This is probably the critical position in the game. We had made these moves relatively quickly, and here Maxime used a lot of time. Originally I saw him reach for the f-pawn as though he's going to play f4. Really the options here were f4, or possibly rook f7, and maybe he could have also played this move, rook a to e8. What this position comes down to really is whether black should keep the tension in the center here with e4 and f5, or simply lock it up and try to play it kind of like a King's Indian and just storm on the king side with all of the pawns. And Maxime played this move, rook f7, which in retrospect is probably a blunder. The critical continuation would have been c4, bishop c2, now this move f4. And in this position, we were analyzing after the game this line g3, g5, g takes f4, g takes f4, king h1, king h8, and now this move, rook to g1. And it seems as though white probably has a small advantage here. For instance, if black plays a very natural-looking queen h3, there's this very strong reply, knight to d4. And now the knight will go to e6 or f5 later on, and it's pretty bad for black, to say the least. However, there is the other option that Maxime can play rook g8 in this position. And after, is this the position? Yeah, and in this position I wasn't really sure. Neither of us really knew who was better here. Possibly something like rook f1, but it's not completely clear who's better here. So this makes a lot more sense, I think, in terms of the theory of the opening and the game. Would have been a lot different for sure had this happened. So in the game, Maxime played this move, rook to f7, which is probably not losing right away, but it makes the position very difficult for black to play after the following sequence. So I took on f5, and Maxime ended up taking back. Originally he wanted to play this move, queen takes d5, but there's this very strong reply with f takes g6, rook d7, queen to e3. And the point being that after black takes on d3, queen takes e5. And now here, black can't take the pawn with king takes g6 because of this move knight to f4, forking the queen and the king. And so black has to go king g8, now queen to e6, king to h8, and rook to d1 here. And here, well, queen takes d1 is pretty much forced, so takes, rook takes d1, king f2. And after h takes g6, knight f4, maybe black has a defense here, but with the king being so wide open, we're having all these kingside pawns, this position should be winning objectively. So this is what Maxime missed when he played rook to f7 instead of f4. So in the game after rook f7, he takes f5. He played the move c4. If he were to take on f5 right away, I just go to c4, and I get the pawn on d5 is protected, and structurally this should just be winning. I have ideas like knight g3, putting pressure on f5, maybe even rook e1 attacking e5. And if I can force him to play f4, then I'll just get this outpost on e4, and this is just positionally winning. So this is why Maxime threw in c4, bishop c2, and then took on f5. And here, I used quite a bit of time here because originally I thought I might simply be winning with this line knight g3, f4, knight to e4. But after bishop takes d5, rook d1, rook d1, rook d8, I couldn't quite find a good continuation here to take advantage of the pawn which I sacrificed. I guess I can try something like queen to f2, but there's always this move queen to e7 which stops any ideas of queen h4 here. So that's why I didn't go for this variation. Although I suspect if someone chooses to look at this with a computer, I strongly suspect that they'll find a win for white somewhere along the way in this variation, even though I was clearly unable to find it.
But probably it was not necessary, right?
Probably not. But if it's quicker and more efficient, then I guess I should find it. But all right, we're only human at the end of the day.